And we're back. Well, boys, we've done it. We said we'd be back, and here we are, episode 2 of the Circus of Safety. How are we, Des? How are you going today?
Yeah, doing well, thank you. Looking forward to the long weekend.
Fantastic. Yeah, here in Aotearoa, Matariki weekend. Today is effectively, well, it might be Thursday. Today is Friday, which is pretty cool. What about you, Andy? How you going?
Good. Taking a few days off out in Wellington at the moment. Spending a bit of time with the family. Out to Zealandia this
Fantastic.
afternoon, and wife and son are at Te Papa as we speak.
Oh, nice. Well, kia ora. Thank you for joining us there, Andy. Hey, listen, yeah, no, it's great. Loads been happening here at the with the team in the Circus of Safety. You'll notice up in the top right hand corner there, we've got, I don't know if you'd call call that a logo or a mismatch, but I kind of pulled that together when preparing us to go live. We're going to be on Spotify soon, so been a lot going on in that space. We're going to be on Patreon soon, so for those of you that want a bit more and a bit extra, we're going to be going onto Patreon, and we'll be sharing details with you shortly. We've got the Circus of Safety LinkedIn page. Really keen for you to jump in and join on that, which would be really great. Help us get some likes and some followers and all those good things, and start a wee bit of a community there, so we can chat a bit more about these. And the one thing that's been really awesome, we've just been talking about merchandise. So we're going to be launching merchandise. We don't have a date on this yet, do we, boys?
Not yet. No, not yet.
But we've been bantering around some good ideas. We're not going to share them with you now, because if we share them, we're worried that this is going to be so successful that people are going to steal them and run with them and make millions of dollars out of this. Because I guess why wouldn't you? Hey, Des, just before we get over to the spinning wheel of death, yeah, mate, how's the last 2 weeks been for you? What have you been up to?
Did a talk earlier this afternoon at the NZISM construction forum, and that was good. They're a good bunch, and some good engagement on that. That was exciting.
Cool.
But apart from that, the 2 weeks, it's just been business as usual, I think. Yeah.
Fantastic. Saving lives, one keystroke at a time, eh?
That's it.
Nice. Now this is going to be the exciting one, Des. This is you and me living vicariously through this man's worldly exploits. Mr. Evans, how's the last 2 weeks been for you?
School holidays, so I've been taking it easy, hanging with the family. I guess the big thing was the public release of the FENS report on Friday last week into the Muriwai fatalities. So had some positive feedback around that, which is good. Always nerve-wracking handing those reports in and waiting for the feedback, but I'm fairly proud of what we've done there.
No, excellent. No, it's I was fairly proud of for you. I happened to be having lunch with a friend of mine, a volunteer firefighter based out of Cumu, who knew the guys involved in that, and actually was out there herself on the night in question. And I know that community, the volunteer firefighting community, has been waiting with anticipation for that report. So no doubt some light reading for all of us over the weekend. I can't wait to have a read. Last 2 weeks for me, really. Don't tell my boss this, but I don't think I've been doing sweet FA really. Been designing logos, adding to the spinning wheel of death. Really just kind of working out how to take this to the next level. But the truth be told, I've been working as well. Been quite good. We're really looking to integrate the way we do safety just in the way we do business, which has been really cool. And been going through the last really 2 weeks have been annual reviews and engaging with over 50% of our staff face to face, having conversations about what's working for them, what we can do to help them, and what we can do to improve them. And the cool thing for me is we didn't talk about safety once, but we talked about safety the whole time, which was really cool. So fantastic. Okay, gentlemen. Well, hey, enough chit chat. We don't have a lot of time because we're going to wrap this up at 4 o'clock because it's a long weekend. Des wants to head off, no doubt. Andy, well, looks like you've got to go join your family at Te Papa. And I gotta head off too. So I'm gonna go to the spinning wheel of death team, and let's see what the topic of the day is gonna be. Oh, here we go! Exciting times. Oh, there we go. There we
This
go.
is fixed. This is a farce.
Go upstairs, team. I don't think we could have landed on anything better for a long weekend.
We're not supposed to get there till 6 months' time.
Oh wow! Why leave the hard stuff till later, right? So if you didn't see that, oh, actually, really quickly, did you hear the music?
Yes, loved it. Have we got a license for it?
I hope so, because otherwise we're going to be getting a whole bunch of litigation come through. Does anyone know a good lawyer?
A good one, no.
Looking for a good lawyer. Okay, I'll take any lawyer. Do I know any lawyers? Getting desperate. Okay, so if you're not sure what that just landed on, Safety 2 or the new view, this is definitely not rigged. So the whole concept with the spinning wheel of death, if you're not familiar with it, and I don't know why you would be, because this is only episode 2, but over the 2 weeks that we don't in between shows, we are constantly messaging each other, updating each other, coming across things in the real world that we operate in, and we're adding them as topics to the spinning wheel of death. Also, I refer to as SWAD. Now that is cool. So then what happens is, with the spinning wheel of death, as we grow the sort of list of safety topics that we want to talk about, we then go live with the spinning wheel of death, and we spin it. And whatever topic it lands on, we then spend the next 40 or so minutes discussing our thoughts or the like on said topic. This is not rigged. We have not prepared any of this conversation that's about to take place. So, Des, can you just run through our legal term, please?
Our disclaimer. Is that what you're after?
Yes, that's the one. Our disclaimer. I
Nothing that
forgot
we're
to write
about
that
to
down.
discuss constitutes legal advice. And
Fantastic.
if you're going to act on it, you need to seek specific legal advice for your specific circumstances. That should do it.
Awesome. Thank you, Des. Appreciate that. So there's our disclaimer. We're into it. So do I have a raise of hands? Who wants to have a crack at this first? What do we think? Safety 2, the new view. How about I start with the question? Do we think they're the same thing? Are they the same thing?
Can I start with a more fundamental question?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, here we go. The whole point of this thing, Andy, is that we stick with the topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as usual. So, who's read the book?
What book? Is it a book?
Safety 2. Safety 1, Safety 2. Eric Holnagel.
Oh, okay.
That would probably be a good starting point to talk about it.
Hey, let's take it away, Andy. Take it away, mate.
Oh, well, the answer is yes, I have read it. I've read it 3 times.
Well, it sounds like you're an expert on the topic, because I've not read it once. Des, have you even heard of the book, Safety 1, Safety 2?
I have heard of it. I haven't read it. I'm going to take... Andy's read it 3 times, so I'll take one of them.
Cool. Okay. Hey, can I take the other one?
Yeah.
There we go.
On average, we've all read it once.
Yeah, but we all, I'm sure we've all heard of Eric and the work that he's doing in this space. And so, Andy, what are your thoughts on the book?
It's like a lot of Eric Holnagel's books, very interesting ideas. Often a little bit convoluted, I find. But I think where he's going with it is a very interesting concept. And I don't think it's not really about safety. And I was fortunate enough a number of years ago to take Eric Holnagel out for dinner, and as you do, and along with Moni Hoggers, of course, you both know Moni.
You're forgetting somebody else.
Oh, and Corinne as well. Corinne from KGR. She was there as well. Cool. Yeah, so we had a lovely dinner. I actually paid for it, and it was such a great opportunity to talk to him about Safety 2 and resilience engineering, and Eto in particular, my favorite. And one of the things that struck with me was that he was getting a little bit concerned. This is about 3 years ago, just before COVID, and he was getting a little bit concerned that it had become safety 1 versus safety 2, when in reality that was never the intention of it. And he was more saying that at the time, calling it safety 2 was what he really meant, because it served a purpose. But with hindsight, he wished he'd sort of called it something a little bit different, because it's more to do with organizational learning and things like that rather than safety per se, as we would understand. So I think that's an interesting aspect of it. And if you actually go on ericholnagel.com, I think he's called, and look at more of his recent work, he's got a paper in there that reinforces that idea, that it's not really about safety 1 or safety 2. It's about these two elements of safety working together to create this harmony. So, I don't think there's anything wrong with the work that he's done. I think it's quite good, it's quite insightful. But I think the way it's being portrayed by certain elements is perhaps not helpful.
Yeah, I think. Oh, looks like the connection in Wellington is running out, or is it my connection?
No, it was the same for me. That last sentence by Andy was muted.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's time we kept him quiet. But yeah, listen, I got the gist of what he was saying there, and Andy, I tend to agree. I think, and that's one of the things that's really concerned me. And I know it's been the basis of a number of our conversations along the way. Is it seems to have become this tug of war between, effectively, as you've identified, safety 1 versus safety 2. And I know something that we've been talking about. How about we just get on and do safety, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean it's specifically one or the other, I guess, and that's been the challenge and some confusion. Des, any thoughts for you to lead into this topic?
Yeah, my thoughts kind of mirror Andy's, what Andy mentioned, because I've never really understood that tug of war between safety 1 and safety 2. Doesn't make sense to me, because they're just tools in your toolkit as a safety practitioner. And sometimes you will direct a worker to follow steps in a procedure, and other times you'll be asking a worker for their view on what's the best course of action is. And that just depends on the circumstance. It's got nothing to do with whether one's a better approach or not. It just depends on the circumstance. So, I see sometimes, the debate on LinkedIn or in other forums where people describe themselves as a safety 2 practitioner. And I don't really understand it. And I would like to understand why they would describe themselves that way, because to me, it seems like, to make an analogy, to be like a carpenter describing themselves as a hammer and nails carpenter, and they're against drills and screws. Why? They're just tools in your toolkit. Why would you not use the best tool for the job at the time? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And I'm starting to think back to our conversation 2 weeks ago. Is this possibly something similar along the lines of, how do you go? Also, I guess one of my things that's going through my mind is, how do you get, say we spoke about 2 weeks ago, how do you get beyond compliance if you haven't even necessarily got to compliance, right? So, and does the same thing sort of apply here? I mean, if you've got a situation where individuals or workers, people that are doing, at the end, if you haven't actually managed to nail down the basic approach to safety and the processes around what effectively would be known as safety 1, how do you get to safety 2? I mean, it presents an interesting concept. Like, at some stage, depending on where you are in your journey, I guess you've got to start somewhere, right? And until we get the concepts and the basic understanding and the education and the learning and some systems to start with, how do you then get to the next level? Do you think it's as simple as that? Like, maybe, how do you? I mean, can you go from nothing? Because there are still some organizations out there that I guess are doing nothing, that have got some really low levels of process or safety or whatever you want to call it, and go straight to safety 2? Or does it have to be a journey, for want of a better description, from one to the other? Or any thoughts around that?
Again, it goes back to how you define things, and this is what I think a lot of debates happen around this, is that things aren't clearly defined up front. So then people end up talking at cross purposes or just having conversations for conversation's sake, ironically, which is quite interesting. But it doesn't actually achieve you anything or get you anywhere. And I think that you need to do safety 1 before safety 2. I mean, what unless you've clearly quantified what safety 1 and safety 2 are, I think it's a nice conversation to have, but it doesn't really help the bigger picture. And you almost start adding to by calling them out separately or without defining them. You're adding sort of fuel to that fire of that debate and that confrontation between the two. When in my mind, and again, there's lots of different definitions of this, but if we can define some basic terms up front, so for me, the management of hazards is what safety is all about. Now, how you do that doesn't really matter, but that's fundamentally what safety is the management of hazards to minimize harm and exposure to people. Now, you can dress that up however you want, but fundamentally, you can't do safety if you don't know what your hazards are. And that's what you've got to get back to. And whether you call that safety 1, safety 2, or safety 10 doesn't really matter. But you can't do safety if you don't know what your hazards are.
And that's a fair call, Andy. And I guess it's about keeping, I guess that's another great question. Do we feel, and I guess Des, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on this. Do we feel this whole different terminology around safety 1, safety 2? I know your thoughts around the toolbox, which again was a great analogy, but do you think it's creating confusion? Do you think it's causing uncertainty out there amongst people that already think safety is over bureaucratic and a waste of time, and this whole rigmarole or whatever? Do we think that maybe the terms are causing confusion and frustration potentially even out there amongst the general user?
Yes, is my short answer. I think, and alluding to what we spoke about last time we did this, is I think it's a distraction. I think this big debate around safety 1, safety 2, just get in there and figure out what your hazards are. Use all the tools in your toolkit to make it work and get on with the job. It doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. And I mean, no one, I guess we went back to, when we spoke about it 2 weeks ago, we talked about how do we actually understand if we've even achieved compliance. And we spoke about going into effectively having to go into a court and be judged by a judge as to whether we've done everything that's reasonably practicable. And we've met, the letter of the law, for want of a better description. That nobody in their right mind is going to stand up and say, well, hey, listen, it's okay. We were practicing safety 1, or hey, it's okay. We were practicing safety 2, right? It's about doing everything that we can to do that. And I guess, like you said, Des, it raises another great point, is for throwing out a whole bunch of analogies there as I'm writing and frantically updating the spinning wheel of death. I'm going to put out a thought there. Do we think then, and Andy, it'd be great to get your thoughts on this, is effectively the different terms creating safety clutter, for want of a better term? Just thought I'd throw that in the mix.
I agree with Des. It's a distraction from the core principles of what we're trying to achieve. So I think that when we start to what we're trying to achieve, there's 2 aspects to it. There's one about understanding the hazards and actually managing the hazards and reducing risk. The second part is how you do that in an organizational context. Because I think one's quite easy. You can look at a hazard and you can say we can put these controls in place. That's what we would classify as risk management, relatively straightforward. Where it becomes complex is why you're trying to maintain that within an organizational context. So that's a harder thing to do than, say, when you're working at height you need edge protection. That's quite straightforward. And I think if we try and keep things as sort of simple as that, and you can call them whatever you want, but it's much better to call them things that mean things to people, because then you get that engagement and that buy-in. The problem we've got is that we work in safety day in, day out, but unfortunately most people that do safety aren't safety people, if that makes sense. Safety is just a small part of their role, or they would perceive it to be a small part of their role. And therefore, that really should be the audience of all this sort of stuff. The safety 1, safety 2 debate, I don't think would happen between a supervisor and a manager on a building site, on a construction site, for example. So, it becomes the sort of that. I mean, I just got visions of sort of Parisian cafes and people smoking nasty cigarettes, philosophizing about the world. It's that domain of the safety people that talk about this, and I think safety people would be much better off working within organizations to help simplify systems, processes, and build engagement, rather than making it potentially more complex or them sound cool.
And then, as Des alluded to, right, I guess when in there doing that and supporting those organizations and supporting those people out there doing the work, using their entire toolbox, right? I mean, that makes sense, though, I guess, too. I really like Des's analogy, and maybe because we're both in construction, I don't know. But, why would you only use half your toolkit when you're trying to do something, right? You wouldn't. It doesn't make sense. You'd use everything available to you. And now, again, maybe do we think possibly, is it maybe our lack of understanding around this whole safety 1, safety 2 conversation? And it'd be great to get a safety 2 practitioner on the show to maybe enlighten us around it.
Does anyone know one?
There's a few of them bantering around on LinkedIn that I engage with. I mean, listen, they're great people, right?
It's all about learning.
Let's not take that away. We'd have a great hoot at a pub or something and a yarn. But I mean, maybe do you think possibly there's a chance that we're misunderstood? Because the three of us seem to be on the same page around. There appears to be this perception that it's safety 1 versus safety 2, or safety 1 or safety 2. Do you think maybe we've actually got it wrong and we are misunderstanding what these people, what this is all about? Maybe it actually is about the whole lot. I don't know. Is there a chance that we've got it wrong or misunderstood it?
Yeah, I'm open to the idea that I've misunderstood it. I'm relying on what I've seen on LinkedIn. I haven't read the book, but I'll be interested in Andy's.
I've got a copy of the book. I can pass it over to you, Des.
Thank you.
It's got some notes in it.
Well, hey, listen, I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna put it out there. Now, some may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. You know what? And listen, I get it. He may not want to. I'm gonna put the call out. I'm gonna put the shout out to Eric Hoggingdale himself. Can we get Eric on the show? Like, it'll be really cool. I mean, listen, why not? Let's put it out there between the three of us. Surely we know more than 3 other people.
He might be listening now. I'm linked in with him.
Quite frankly, he very well could be. I mean, we don't know. Eric, if you're listening, shout out to you. Give us a like or something. But hey, listen, why don't we try? I mean, listen, Andy, you've had dinner with the man.
Yep.
Let's put it out there.
You have monkfish if you're interested.
Let's put it out. Let's get him. Let's reach it out. So listen, if anyone knows Eric, I don't know where in the world he is right now, but listen, let's reach out. Let's try to get Eric on the show, because it'd be great. It'd be really awesome, because I think the concerning thing is, I'd like to think the three of us were relatively let's just go, the three of us are educated to some extent, right? We'll stick with that. We'll keep it simple. I'd like to think the three of us are relatively worldly in our view around this topic. And I'd like to think the three of us were relatively practically based individuals. And in saying all that, if the three of us have possibly got the concept of what this all is and how this is all supposed to work wrong, then surely there's a concern that the masses have got this wrong, right? I mean, surely we can't be the three stupidest people in the universe, right? So yeah, I reckon let's reach out to the stars. I've thrown you boys under the bus here. I'm dragging you down with me. We're going to go hunting and stalking Eric, and let's see if we can get him on the show. And if we can't get Eric because we don't have enough pulling power, listen, we'll take anybody, really. So if there's any Safety 2 practitioners out there that would like to join us, maybe in a fortnight's time, we can relive the same topic and have that conversation around enlightening us into how the concept works. Because I've got another question for you guys, and we sort of started touching on this a couple of weeks ago when we actually chucked this topic up on the spinning wheel of death, and that was Safety 2 / the new view. Are they the same thing? Are they different things? Any kind of thoughts around that?
Can I just so for anybody that's interested, if you there's a website, it's called safetysynthesis.com. It's part of Eric Holnagel's websites, and just as part of that, he says the terms safety 1 and safety 2 have been useful to make a point that it is possible to look at safety from a different perspective. The problem, however, is that the meaning of the word safety in safety 2 has little to do with the traditional interpretation of safety. It would therefore be useful to find a term that on one hand represents the safety 2 perspective in tense, but on the other avoids the use of the 6 letters safety. Luckily, such a term exists. It's synesis. So he talks about synesis now. So, and this is from 2019. So from the 11th of November 2019, Eric Holnagel, who authored Safety 2, Safety 1, Safety 2, is actually pushing to cease using the term Safety 2 and move towards using the term Safety Synesis, which I thought was interesting.
Wow. I don't think I could say that word properly.
Synesis.
Synesis. Okay, now I'm even more confused.
I've got something for you that might throw a spanner in the works. Not on that point, but on the whole Safety 2 new view safety. And that is a recent decision from the New South Wales District Court. It's Safe Work New South Wales and Southern Meets, 2023 New South Wales District Court 204. And the court emphasised in that the importance of taking disciplinary action when workers do not conform with the established procedures. Now, we talk about compliance and moving beyond compliance, but there's a clear indication from the court in Australia, which will be influential in New Zealand in a big way, that taking disciplinary action against employees when they fail to follow the correct process is an important step in meeting your duty and doing everything reasonably practicable. So what does that mean for Safety 2 and new view safety?
Well, I guess it depends, and that's where it'd be great to get a practitioner of this concept to help us understand: is it all in, or is it actually really a combination of the two that they are applying? Because I guess that would indicate you'd have to have those sort of those rules and those procedures in place. Because I'm not suggesting for a minute that rules and procedures aren't in place with Safety 2, and that's definitely not what I'm saying. But yeah, so maybe we need, that's, I guess, highlights even more so the importance of maybe getting somebody on that could enlighten us as to the actual back end workings of how these concepts work. So again, if someone is listening, it'd be great to get Eric's view on this, but also any other safety practitioners. If you want to jump on in a fortnight, it'll be back to our Friday morning slot in 2 weeks' time. Let us know. We'd love to have you on the show, and you could enlighten us more, because you raise a valid point there, Des. Is that then the legal requirements, I guess, fighting the application of how we're trying to manage it, right, and how we're trying to support our people, which becomes a real interesting dilemma when you're trying to, when you've had the unfortunate experience of having something happen and trying to defend yourself from a legal context, right? Which is not what we want to be doing, but unfortunately, sometimes if that's what happens, then we've got to go. And so then, how do you blend those two things together, right? Can you go down that road of having to discipline workers for not following processes, regardless of how they've been developed, and still maintain a concept of using learning and worker safety new view approach, or can you not? So yeah, it'd be really interesting to get somebody to enlighten us, I guess, a bit more, eh?
It would. I think, again, I go back to my usual droning on. It would be clear to have some very clear definitions. It'd be good to have some clear definitions of what these terms actually mean. Because, if Mr. Holnagel or Professor Holnagel is there saying that he doesn't really like the term Safety 2 that he invented anymore, then it begs the question why we're still using it if the inventor of it doesn't like it anymore.
Good point. And I don't know if we're going to have enough time today to discuss in detail, and maybe again we can wait for that next show where we manage to get either Eric himself or a Safety 2 practitioner on board about the difference between Safety 2 and the new view, because I'm really interested to understand this new view. Is it actually new? Is what we're trying to apply here? Maybe it's new in a safety context. I don't know, but is it new to the world? You know. Yeah, I've got some more questions. I'm fascinated to follow through. And Andy, it sounds like you're in a bus terminal, mate.
No, I was in a quiet part of a hotel.
Oh, okay.
But it's suddenly not so quiet.
Yeah, fair enough. The other, yeah, because I've got I had a whole bunch of fascinating questions that I still would like to explore on this topic, but we've been going now for about 30 odd minutes, team, and I think it's time to sort of draw it to a close, and maybe I'll leave this topic on the spinning wheel of death. Just give it one more go round if it so chooses, and we feel the need to. But yeah, it'd be great to get somebody from the Safety 2 practitioner aspect of it to help us understand this concept a bit more and help us educate ourselves, as well as the hundreds of thousands of people no doubt tuning into this live stream on the eve of our Matariki weekend. So Des, anything exciting planned for the weekend? Well, we know what Andy's up to, so what are you up to for the weekend, Des?
The gripping life I lead, I might have the opportunity to mow the lawn with a bit of dry weather.
And I think only those people living in New Zealand would understand how valuable that would be right now, right?
It's everything.
That's another whole topic.
It's just, yeah. So I'm looking forward to some nice weather. The forecast is looking good.
Oh, fantastic. I'd love to talk about that, to understand where all this water is coming from. I'll tell you what, it's phenomenal. Andy, how long are you in Wellington for, and anything else exciting planned?
Flying out at 6:30 tonight, back up to Auckland, and then I'm going to do some work tomorrow. I know it's a public holiday, but I've got to do some marking. Some of my diploma students are getting a bit impatient.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I'm going to be kind of continuing to sort of maybe spend some time with the family, which will be great, and continue to build on the Circus of Safety. Might look to produce some show notes and some learnings to take away, and yeah, keep updating the LinkedIn page. So no doubt a invigorating weekend, and also need to get into my lawns and give them a mow. So look forward to that. Maybe a Sunday afternoon job as we go along. So as always, guys, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully you found the conversation insightful. Hopefully everyone else has found the conversation insightful. And yeah, we'll post that link up, Des, in the chat too on the LinkedIn page, so we can get people talking about it and get their thoughts. So as always, please leave us messages. Let us know what you'd like to add to the spinning wheel of death. Otherwise, have a great weekend, and we'll see you in a fortnight.
Thank you. See you then.
See ya.